When people start talking about great werewolf horror, they're usually talking about movies, folklore, or the same handful of comics. Ferals is the kind of brutal, nightmarish series that deserves to not only be mentioned during these conversations, but dragged right to the top of the list. Published by Avatar Press, Ferals ran for 18 issues from 2011 to 2013, throwing readers into a savage world where small-town crime, ancient bloodlines, predatory sexuality, and truly monstrous werewolf mythology collide in the ugliest way possible. It doesn't concern itself with romanticized lycanthropes or tragically beautiful monsters. It wants to show you something that's feral, corrupt, and deeply wrong. That's the main reason as to why this comic stands out. Writer David Lapham, best known for Stray Bullets and darker works like Caligula and Crossed, Psychopath, brings a crime noir sensibility to the series with visceral illustrations from artist Gabriel Andrade, whose work you might recognize from Lady Death. Even early promotions for the book framed it as a supernatural crime noir built around a different kind of humans called ferals. That's exactly why this exploration is about to blow your mind. Don't expect just another werewolf tale, because we're stepping into one of the nastiest, most unsettling beast mythologies in modern horror comics, and by the time we're done, you may never look at werewolves the same way again. Not just another body. The town of Cypress, Lake County, Minnesota, is witness to a horrible crime. Local cop Dale Chestnut and coroner Dennis Chicker find a bloody scene in Mark's trailer. Only his ripped hand, still holding his cup of coffee, is left behind. His ex-wife Jackie was the first to find him at midnight, and by the break of dawn, she had called Dale, who was Mark's drinking buddy. Jackie's cavalier attitude about the whole deal concerns Dale, but Jackie doesn't care about losing Mark, as he neither paid alimony nor child support. Dale still wants to know what she was doing at the trailer at midnight. Jackie flips him off at the implication and leaves. Asking Dennis to look around for clues, Dale follows Jackie and presses her into telling him what she was doing there. Jackie had been in a critical financial situation, having no money to pay for her bills, her daughter's glasses, or her son's basketball uniform, so she arrived at the trailer with the intention of robbing him and ended up finding the bloody scene. Now that he was gone, Jackie didn't give a damn, and frankly, we can't really blame her. Dale heads to the trailer where the coroner has been mucking around, and Chicker tells him no tools have been used. Mark was more likely torn apart quickly and powerfully. Following the blood trail, Dale finds the rest of Mark's mangled corpse on Black Mountain. The body was so mangled that people assumed it was a mountain lion or a bear, but Dale knew it had to be a man, as no animal would simply rip apart a man without eating him, and certainly no animal would stick Mark's genitalia down his throat. Yeesh. That evening, Dale heads to the local bar, Madge's Bar Grill, and swears to make sure that whoever murdered Mark would rot in hell. The kind hostess calms him down and hands him a drink. Following this, a slightly more relaxed Dale shoots some pool with his fellow cop, Ralph. Ralph notices a well-dressed woman looking at Dale and pushes him to pursue her. The woman introduces herself as Gerda, and the two hit it off. Soon, they head to the toilets, where they make love, with Gerda egging Dale on to hit her as she likes pain. She even asks him to describe Mark's body, and that's what makes Dale punch her. Around 2 a.m., he shows up at Jackie's house, looking like he's been crying, and the two make love, continuing their affair. The next morning, Jackie's making breakfast while Dale is still asleep when a large bipedal wolf pulls her out of the house and begins mauling her. Her terrified screams wake up her daughter, who in turn wakes Dale. Dale rushes at the beast while shooting, but it's not even bothered by the bullets. It tosses him against a tree with its claw, but thankfully, 3 men from the neighboring houses start shooting at it with rifles. That scares off the giant wolf, and it leaves. Bad suspicions. 5 days later, Dale wakes up in a Two Harbors hospital with Sheriff Joe Felton by his bed. The sheriff tells him that the woman he hooked up with, Gerda Ingebrigtsen, was killed the same way Mark and Jackie were. The sheriff suspects Dale, telling him that the animal could have come from the smell of blood after he murdered his victims. It didn't help Dale's case that one of the victims was his best friend, and the other 2 had his semen inside them. Although the sheriff doesn't want to arrest him, he didn't want to let him go, and kept an armed guard by his door. Dale's not going to take this lying down, though, and despite being torn asunder, he crawls to the closet where his uniform is hanging. Moments later, nurses and cops rush into his room because his monitor went dead, and they're shocked to see him missing. The nurse seems sure that he couldn't have escaped as his injuries were too severe, and she bets that he died in the parking lot after jumping out the window. However, Dale, very much alive, arrives at Chicker's house in the middle of the night. Chicker is shocked to see him on his feet so quickly, as he had treated him before they took him to the hospital. He sees to Dale's wounds, which have healed surprisingly well for that short time, and the 2 men head to the morgue. Dale observes that Mark and Gerda's bodies have been ripped apart far more viciously and vengefully than Jackie's. He realizes the creature actually wanted to kill him, and Jackie was just collateral damage. Chicker suspects that the culprit is Gerda's husband, Christopher Ingebrigtsen, who lives in Bergen and has claimed the body. That's all the help he can give Dale, though, and after giving him meds for the pain, Chicker leaves. Dale then goes to the sheriff's office, where Joe, unfortunately, is waiting for him. Joe throws him in jail, and Dale pleads his innocence, even sharing Chicker's theory about Christopher. Unfortunately, Christopher has a rock-solid alibi, which Joe had already checked out. A low grumbling interrupts their conversation, and Dale tells him that he can hear something big on the roof. Joe calls his men and arms himself, refusing to hear Dale's plea for a gun. Suddenly, the same beast that looked like a wolf-bear hybrid breaks in and mauls a man to death. That convinces Joe to finally give Dale a gun, and the two start shooting. Unbothered, the creature lunges at Joe and bites into his neck. When the beast's eyes meet Dale's, he realizes it can understand what he's saying. He asks the creature to let Joe go and asks it to wait in the woods where they can settle things. The wolf roars at the order and rips Joe apart. So much for understanding. Dale begins shooting at the creature and it tries to claw at him through the bars. Dale shoves his fingers into the creature's eyes and pulls out one of its eyeballs. The beast runs away in pain and Dale is shocked at his actions, but there's no time for him to soul search. He squeezes out of the mangled bars and finds the sheriff's men have arrived and have begun to shoot the creature. By the time Dale gets out, all of the men are slaughtered. He picks up one of the rifles and decides he's taken this monster down, come hell or high water. Cursed! Dreaming of Gerda, Dale makes it to the woods, but his injuries get to him and he throws up blood before passing out. Meanwhile, two suited-up FBI agents arrive in town, breaking into the morgue, declaring that they've hit the jackpot. Dreams of Gerda and her ripped-up corpse wake up Dale, and he notices that his nails have grown unnaturally sharper and longer. All his wounds have also healed, and Dale happily continues his hunt for the beast, which was having its breakfast, a deer, by the lake. The FBI agents interview Ralph, who tells them that Gerda had come out of the toilets with a black eye, but since she hadn't seemed scared or upset, Ralph didn't bother to ask. When he found Dale again, he had been overwhelmed with emotions, and, with tears in his eyes, he confessed to Ralph that he thought he was in love with her and meant to spend forever with her. The agents let Ralph go, disappointed that he didn't have any useful information. One of the agents, Shu, does exploratory surgery on the two women, and in Gerda's uterus, they find a gland with a swastika-like symbol. While this is happening, a brutal fight breaks out between the beast and Dale. Dale, remembering Gerda's words that if he loves her, he will die for her, fights savagely. When shooting continuously at its chest doesn't work, he jumps on its back and shoots it right in the spine. Theorizing that this beast was trained to kill and sent by someone else, Dale vows to find this mysterious animal tamer. Meanwhile, in Bergen, Christopher senses that something is wrong. He tells his friend to round up the others, as he knows the Great One is dead. Christopher thinks his wife has started something terrible and hopes he's able to stop it in time. We see that his fingernails are similar to Dale's. She likes it rough. Now, let's go back a few days to the town of Bergen, Lake County, Minnesota, where a cult of werewolves lives and the torn-apart body of a woman named Bridget is found. The people in town call her a whore, assuming that whoever killed her was her affair partner. Christopher consoles Bridget's husband, Gunn, who is more ashamed than mournful about his lost wife. Christopher reminds him that they loved each other before someone led her astray and that he'll help Gunn find this someone. He leads Gunn away and asks his wife Gerda to take care of the body. One of the women attempts to urinate on the corpse, but the others ask her to show some respect, as Bridget is Gerda's sister. Gerda has no love for her sister, however, and asks for her to be stripped and left for the wolves. The next day, she helps Hannah, her friend, deal with deep cuts on her face left by her baby Godfred, who has really sharp nails. Hannah tries to console Gerda about her sister's death and asks her to bury her that night, but Gerda refuses to stray from their way of life, as that's what keeps them together. That night, Christopher tells her that they've been following a blood trail from Bridget's body. Gerda suspects the Jacobson clan, as Hannah had seen Lars Jacobson in town last week. The next morning, when Gerda is cutting her son's sharp nails, Eric arrives, declaring that they'll have the whole afternoon to continue their affair. Gerda turns him away as Christopher's not in a charitable mood. Pissed off at the dismissal, Eric chokes her using her own necklace and orders her to act like the whore she is. He then takes off her necklace and calls in his friends. Eric orders Gerda to service them all, and Gerda agrees. Once they're gone, Gerda treks up the mountain to her sister's body and remembers how she ended up there. Gerda had found out that Bridget had been cheating with Christopher and ended her. Now, she chopped off her head and drew a blood trail to Eric's house. Christopher and his men follow this new trail and kill Eric, but Christopher also finds Gerda's necklace in his house. He rushes home to confront his wife, but she reminds him that he was the one who cheated on her first. She asks him why he laid hands on Bridget the way he never did with Gerda. Christopher is taken aback as he had treated her with respect, as she was so proper. She angers him more and more, trying to get him to hit her, and doesn't stop even when he punches her, as she keeps asking if he's a man. Christopher walks out with his blowing horn, but outside, Eric's friends are waiting with daggers and guns. Christopher is outnumbered, but survives by the timely intervention of a giant bipedal wolf. When he returns home, he finds a dead body in his home, while Gerda is nowhere to be seen. Meeting Christopher! Back in the present, Christopher finds the body of the giant wolf and drives it home, promising to avenge its death. Dale, tired from the fight, lumbers to Bergen and gets a room in the motel to sleep. His dreams are again haunted by Gerda, ordering him to be a man and hit her. When he wakes up, his nails are even longer, so he cuts them off with some garden clippers, then heads to the local hunting and fishing supply shop to buy a rifle. As the man hands him the gun, Dale demands to know where he can find Mr. Ingebrigtsen and threatens to blow his head off if he doesn't give him a straight answer. On his way there, his vehicle is tripped up by spikes laid on the road and he crashes down. Meanwhile, the FBI agents head to the lake where they get a boat with blue, green, and red stripes on it. They understand the code and send the boat back with the gland they found in Gerda's body. Dale is pulled out of the upside-down car by Christopher and his friend, and a fierce fight ensues. Christopher's friend dies in the struggle, but Christopher himself manages to pull out Dale's innards, causing him to pass out. Christopher chains Dale up while cursing Gerda for choosing a cop, and hopes Dale at least had some fun with her, as he's not going to like what's to come. Dale is woken up by Dream Gerda's order for him to be a man, and this time he finds himself chained up in a shed. He bangs on the shed's doors, and Christopher arrives. Dale accuses him of hitting his wife, but Christopher tells him that even though he knew Gerda for a short time, he's yet to figure out that she enjoyed that. The two FBI agents, Shu and Marcellus, are shaken up by the code, as it means that they're together on the most dangerous mission they've ever been on. The two talk a bit about each other's families, worried that they won't get to see them again, but they don't let the fear stop them from doing their job. First, they head to the same hunting and fishing supply shop in Bergen, demanding to know Ingebrigtsen's address. The shopkeeper's face when they mention the name is a dead giveaway, and while Marcellus kicks him around trying to get an answer, Shu sends what he expects to be his final text, an "I love you" to his family. They set out on the road once more after they get the address, discussing how crazy their jobs are as they now have to investigate what seems to be werewolves. On their way to Christopher's house, they pass a bunch of warnings for trespassers and government men to keep off the property. Christopher tells Dale that Gerda infected him, through which he's now becoming a feral. In Christopher's world, it's not a disease, but rather a way of life. The two arrive in a cottage where most of the cult's members surround the dead body of the creature. The people there call Christopher Jarl, which is used to refer to a Norse or Danish chief. Putting together context clues, Dale realizes he's in a cult, but worse, he might now be a member. The huge bipedal wolf is a sacred creature in their world, known by many names like Fenrir, and every time the great wolf dies, they draw a lot. Whoever is chosen will drink the blood of the wolf and take the soul and form of the Great One. That's how a feral man is converted into a wolf, by drinking the blood of another wolf. It's a sacrifice, but a worthy one, as it preserves who they are. Since the latest great wolf was very young, and the one chosen to take over him is a young boy named Aaron who wants to play varsity football one day, Christopher has a solution. He wants Dale to be converted into the Great One. He tells Dale that he'll be taken care of and provided with prey and human women as needed. Dale doesn't want to spend the rest of his life as a wolf. Frankly, who would? But Dale doesn't have much of a choice as he's handcuffed, and the men cut the corpse of the wolf to get the blood. Before they can force-feed Dale the blood, the FBI agents barge in, guns ablazing, and start shooting everyone. Christopher attacks, killing Marcellus and ripping off Shu's hand. Shu is a seasoned agent, though, and puts down Christopher with a well-aimed shot. Dale, who was also shot in the skirmish, urges Shu to keep shooting until he's sure they're all dead. A new job for Mr. Chestnut. For the second time in a short span of days, Dale wakes up in a hospital from a terrible nightmare that showed him eating Gerda on a white snow-capped mountain. Agents Crane and Shu, whose full name is Schoenfield, meet him in the hospital and tell him that he better listen to them as he has a dozen murder cases against him. Crane, Shu's boss, is impressed to see Dale as he is a wolf man. He had bones as hard as steel, quick healing, and his nails and hair grew at an alarming rate. So, Crane gives him two options. The first is to work for them, investigating cult-like activities in the Norwegian community, similar to Bergen, and the second option is that he'll be cut open and studied, but he won't get paid for that. Dale chooses the only logical option and is sent to Green Gorge. His alter ego is Sven Halvorsen, and he's paired with Pia, an agent of Norwegian and American descent. His job is to collect as much info as possible and try to get inside the cult. Pia and Dale head off to Green Gorge, with Dale actively hitting on Pia and Pia dodging each and every attempt. Pia reminds him that, according to their history, they're 6 years into their marriage and the flame of passion has gone out. Dale tries to convince her to listen to him, as the cult is male-dominated, with women often being hit by the men. Pia simply laughs him off. When they arrive in Green Gorge, the fake couple first makes a stop at the local bar, where Dale begins to rant about how he hunted 6 wolves. A tall man tells him that wolf hunting is forbidden here, as wolves are endangered. Sensing trouble, Pia asks Dale to leave for Deer Pines Cabins, where they've rented a cabin for a few weeks. Dale grabs her by the throat and asks her to wait in the car for him. He then introduces himself as Sven to the larger man, whose name is Sig. Sig's not happy about the way Dale speaks, and soon a fistfight breaks out. Dale takes him down pretty easy though, and rips out a bit of flesh from his neck with his teeth as a warning. In Deer Pines Cabins, Dale apologizes for being so rough with Pia and warns her that things are much worse than they were in Bergen. Pia, however, is overcome with lust for Dale and can't do anything but think about him. The two make love, and Pia wonders what's going wrong with her, but doesn't stop. New at Green Gorge. Dale and Pia make love again the next morning, and Dale leaves marks on her face. 2 men, Adolf and Nicholas, show up at the door and ask him to come with them. After Dale leaves, Pia updates Shu on their mission. Shu asks Pia not to tell Dale about the Headless Horseman, a serial killer active in the area who rips the heads off their victims, as Dale will just try to be a hero and solve the mystery. Meanwhile, Adolf and Nick drive Dale out to the edge of a forest and, pointing their rifles at him, ask him to take off his clothes. Dale thinks it's a weird hazing ritual, but the men ask him to go hunt and bring back whatever he kills. Nick makes an offhand comment about taking care of Sven's wife, but before Dale can make him pay for it, Adolf threatens to shoot him. Dale jumps off to do as told. Pia decides to get some shopping done for her new home, and a group of women surround her outside the supermarket. They think the scars on her face are proof that she's one of their husband's mistresses. Scared, Pia runs away from them, but they catch her and toss her inside a van. While 2 of them hold her down, the others check her uterus and decide she's not the one. They try to apologize to her, and Pia responds by punching one of them, who's called Siri. Siri doesn't mind though, as she thinks she deserved it. And I mean, she did. Dale's hunt, however, isn't going too good, as it's almost sundown and he doesn't have anything to show for the day. He tries to catch a buck, but it runs away. When he finally catches up with it, he sees that it's ripped apart, proof that he's not alone in the woods. By the evening, Pia and the women have made up and they discuss Pia's marriage with Sven. Pia flips through the newspaper and is shocked to learn that a whole school bus full of children has gone missing just 40 miles from the town. The women assure her that such a thing would never happen in Green Gorge, as they keep a tight leash. Dale follows the blood trail from the deer and finds the deer's head hung from a branch. He's suddenly clawed at by a giant wolf, but he's quick on his feet and knocks it away with a rock. As he runs away, he sees the missing school bus, wrecked and covered in blood, with a few bodies inside. 3 more werewolves surround him, and when he turns, he sees at least a dozen werewolves charging at him. Dale asks God for some help, and then prepares to fight. The players at Green Gorge. A year ago, in Seattle, Washington, Lena, one of the women from Green Gorge, strikes up a conversation with Senator Roger O'Banion, and the two end up in Roger's bed. A little while later, Lena lets Rickard and one of her Green Gorge friends into his room. Roger thinks they're blackmailing him, but Rickard shows him a handcuffed and bound woman and asks Roger to make love to her and eat her. Though Roger looks surprised by what Rickard said, he's even more surprised that he's excited to do that. He jumps on the helpless girl while the others cheer and record him. Later, Adolf, the Jarl of Green Gorge, chides Rickard for risking their secret existence, but Rickard thinks Adolf is being paranoid, as having a senator in their midst would help maintain their secrecy until they're ready to make themselves known. Adolf is taken aback by that last comment and orders Rickard not to go against the inner circle. Rickard agrees to disagree and heads to Friend's bar. There, he takes his anger out on a young man in the restroom by ripping his head off, as per his usual MO. Adolf and his men confront Rickard at his home, where he has stuck the heads of his victims on poles, and ask him to stop the killings, as the FBI has opened a full-scale investigation over the Headless Horseman. Rickard sicks his wolves on Adolf's men, and most of them are killed in the blink of an eye. Adolf isn't happy that Rickard has made wolves an action forbidden by their kind. If you're still not caught up on this process, allow me to explain. A she-wolf mating with a man makes him feral, and if he drinks the blood of a turned wolf, he too becomes a wolf. Rickard doesn't care though, and tells him that as long as they supply him and his wolves with live prey, they'll stay away from the prying eyes of the government. Adolf agrees, and his men regularly kidnap people to set loose in Rickard's hunting grounds for his wolves to kill. Rickard's wife, Sophie, notices that the kidnappings are inviting more attention and is worried about leaving it all up to Adolf's hands. Rickard asks her not to worry as he has other plans. His love for her makes him punch her, but she has no marks on her body, and Rickard thinks it's a symbol of his mastery and power, so he asks her to go in and send his mistresses Lena and Britt out. A few days later, Rickard kidnapped the school bus easily as the bus driver was in love with him. He led them to his house, fed them, introduced his daughters, and some of the boys even made love to the women there. As the night began to ramp up, Rickard told them about his ancestor, Otkel, a Viking who was also a wolf and was cast out of his homeland. Otkel had first set foot in America, and now all the men who had slept with his daughters were part of the bloodline too. To make sure they were wolves, they were all fed wolf's blood and chained up. This last incident irritated Jarl Adolf, and he decided to do something about it. As luck would have it, Dale and Pia had just arrived in town. He sent his men to spy on the two, and the way they made love convinced them that the both of them were Viking werewolves as well. Adolf had heard about Dale from the Bergen fiasco, and despite knowing he was using a fake name, decided to test him on whether he would be capable of taking Rickard. Choose a side. Back in the present, Dale is easily outnumbered by the wolves, so he gets on the bus and begins driving over them. Soon, that plan falls apart as the wolves manage to get inside the bus. He fights them off as much as he can, but has no idea what to do when they encircle him. The sound of a blowing horn stops the wolves in their tracks, and Rickard appears, congratulating him for being a really brave guy, or perhaps a complete lunatic. Rickard takes him home, guessing correctly that he was sent by Adolf and Nicholas, and asks his women to tend to his wounds. Rickard allows Dale to rest and tells him that he's free to leave as soon as he tells him why he's there. Pia, worried that Dale is missing, heads to Nick's house as she's a friend of his wife Lisa. She calms Pia down and shares her worries that her son Gunther is not healing from a fever. When Nick arrives, Pia asks him if he knows anything about Dale, but Nick offers to tell her if they could work something out. Pia, offended, rushes out, and Nick's wife threatens to tell the town about his bastard child if he hurts Pia. Dale tells Rickard that he adapted the whole Sven persona as he had killed Gerda's husband and his men. Rickard is impressed and asks Dale to choose a side. Dale asks for time to think things over and heads home with the deer's head he found. He presents it to Adolf, who's surprised that that's all he got. Dale apologizes for not bringing Rickard's entire army, and having heard that he survived them, Adolf gives him a sheriff's star and tells him that Rickard needs to be stopped. Meanwhile, Lisa tells Pia that Gunther is not her son, and that's why his healing factor wasn't working. Nick's mistress had shown up with little Gunther, and Lisa had killed her with a pan. Lisa was stuck between a rock and a hard place, as if Gunther lived, they would sooner or later find out that he's not Lisa's son, and Nick would be killed for risking their lives, but Lisa didn't want to kill Gunther. Pia promises to help her. When they go back home, Pia tells Dale that Rickard is the Headless Horseman, and they can't let Shu know as he would send the National Guard, which would risk the secret of the werewolves. It would affect them too, as Pia is now pregnant, so they lie to Shu and tell him that they don't have anything to report. Desperate times call for desperate measures. The doctors begin testing the giant wolf's blood with normal human blood and feral human blood. They find out that the enzymes in the wolf's body go feral when mixed with the blood of the feral man. A normal human is turned into a feral by a feral woman who has a special gland behind the vestibular gland and can give the condition of feral to whoever she has sex with. Back in Green Gorge, Pia stresses out about Shu as she doesn't want to risk her baby's life. To make sure Shu leaves the town alone, Dale decides to give him Rickard. He arms Adolf's men with rifles, but they are only 10, as Adolf does not trust anyone else to keep the whole thing secret from Rickard. They decide to storm his place once the clouds roll out. Pia and Ciri meet Lisa at her house and drug Gunther with anesthesia. When Pia and Ciri head out, Ciri tells her that she's a true she-wolf and that she can feel it. Pia can feel it too, but she's never turned anyone. Ciri offers to teach her how. Dale and the men storm Rickard's house, and they see a wolf mating with a woman. They kill the wolf, but Sophie and Rickard's pregnant mistresses point a gun at their heads and tell him to leave if he doesn't want to face the wrath of Rickard. Sophie asks all the men to line up against the wall and takes aim, but Dale pushes the barrel away from himself just in time. He disarms Sophie, but realizes he won't get anywhere with her. Hearing a lot of clamor outside, he grabs one of the pregnant women at gunpoint and walks out, threatening to shoot her if they don't back off. While this is going on, just 80 miles south of Green Gorge, the wolf army of Rickard unleashes hell in the town of Chonawa. Pia goes to Lisa's house with the corpse of a baby she found in the morgue and gives it to Lisa, advising her to hold a closed casket funeral as he looked nothing like Gunther. She then takes Gunther and leaves him at a firehouse in Spokane. When she finishes her errand and returns home, she finds Dale on the couch, tired and horrified. He had done something terrible. He had killed Sophie, the pregnant mistresses, and the wolves guarding them, and left them in a pile in Rickard's house. Blood for blood. Dale justifies his actions as he couldn't let female wolves be born and couldn't take them captive as Rickard would eventually find them. Despite believing he did what had to be done, Dale doesn't think he's a civilized human anymore. Suddenly, the FBI storms their house, and Shu blames Dale for the Chonawa massacre as he had not mentioned Rickard's wolf factory to them. Dale has useful info now and asks them to attack Rickard's mountain with as many reinforcements as possible. Army choppers and tanks all head to Rickard's mountain, and a brutal war between man and man-wolf occurs. The people in Green Gorge begin freaking out, and to calm them, Pia tells them that she is from the FBI. She assures them that the FBI doesn't know about the secrets of Green Gorge, but to keep it that way, they needed to cut their nails and clean their homes immediately. Siri threatens to kill Pia, but Pia tells her that the only way they could live was if she helped them. Rickard watches the war from a cliff with Jarl Vigo and the Fathers, a stronger and more powerful cult. He tries to convince Vigo to make more wolves so that they can grow so powerful that nobody would ever dare to stop them. Vigo criticizes him for not seeing the bigger picture, and, in retaliation, Rickard beheads one of Vigo's men and leaves. When Dale and the army reach Rickard's cottage, he pours lighter fluid on the heap of bodies and wonders out loud where Sophie's body is. Rickard replies that he buried it and attacks Dale. He promises to get his revenge by butchering Dale's wife. Dale rushes out, bleeding from the wound Rickard gave him, and takes Shu's phone to warn Pia. Unfortunately, it's too late, as Rickard gets to her before she has a chance to receive the phone call. The Good Doctor and his bad practices. A few days later, Shu approaches Adolf and asks him to tell his people to cooperate with the investigation. Adolf simply tells him that it's still the United States of America and shuts the door in his face. The FBI brings in Dr. Cherry to speed things up, as his methods get answers. Dale follows Rickard's scent to Fordbridge, British Columbia, where a man gives him Rickard's address in Black Mountain. There, Dale finds skeletons of women and wolves left behind. He attacks a pregnant woman, the daughter of the owner of Hanson's feed shop, as he realizes she's pregnant with a wolf. Her father rushes in and asks him to stop as all the other pregnant women and many of Rickard's wolves have been killed by the Fathers. The old man had found out that they were rounding up women who had copulated with the wolves and had hidden his daughter Thea in the hills after covering her with maple leaves and cow dung. Suddenly, a bunch of wolves attack Dale and draw blood, but Thea calls them off. She cuts her thigh and feeds him her blood. Dr. Cherry begins by kidnapping the people of Green Gorge to test them. Shu objects, but Cherry outranks him and reminds him that they're not technically dealing with people. Shu tries to reason with Gordon, but Gordon can't do anything about it as it's not his call to make. He gives Shu a bag and asks him to find more of them as he's hungry. Shu thinks Gordon's getting rid of him and walks outside. When he opens the bag, he's surprised to learn that there are chestnuts inside. Dale wakes up to a nightmare of Pia exploding and finds himself in Thea's house. Who needs alarms when you have Dale Chestnut's famous nightmares? Thea's blood took away Pia's smell and the pain he carried inside. Thea asks him to love her now, and Dale agrees. Adolf struggles to decide on what to do, as his instincts say fight, but his logic knows that would lead to a massacre. A knock on the door announces the arrival of Vigo the King, who asks Adolf to give them some time and find Chestnut. Cherry kidnaps the Lovicks, a family of 5, and begins his unethical experiments. He chains Christina Lovick up and tells her that their attempts to see how the mysterious gland works have led them to a dead end. They've injected the enzymes into human test subjects, but have gotten no results and have decided to test live delivery methods. To this end, Cherry had offered to waive off the rape sentences of 3 convicts if they raped Christina. All the families of Green Gorge head to the school to let Vigo and the Fathers do what they have to. Adolf sends Nick to find Dale. Thea tells Dale that 40 women were enrolled in his mating program and that more than half of them had died when the wolves mated with them. 14 had become pregnant, and one of them died in the 3rd month as the child ripped open her womb. They later found out that the mother did not have the special gland. Thea asks Dale to protect her till she gives birth, and Dale agrees. Nick walks in, glad that he found it. He tells him to come back as the soldiers in Green Gorge were getting suspicious. The fathers arrive in town and demand the dogs to get out into the street. Dale asks Nick to hide Thea in the woods, while Dale walks up to the fathers. One of the fathers smells Thea on Dale and demands to know where she is, but Dale's one tough cookie, and he rips the father's intestines out. The others are surprised, as no ordinary feral man could do that to a father. They think Dale is one of Rickard's experiments and decide to kill him, but before they can enact their plan, Rickard's loyalists arrive and start shooting at them. Rickard's men think Dale is an ally and celebrate his arrival. Dale doesn't stick around to correct them and heads for the hills. In the Vinta Mountains, where Dr. Cherry has set up camp, he's met with the bad news that none of the volunteers had feral blood in them. Dr. Cherry wonders why. He figures that it must be willful and that the women are capable of deciding who they turn. He brings Christina to where her husband Max is kept and asks her what she thinks he'll do when he realizes she's been having intercourse with other men. Christina calls out Max's name, and he rushes at her with so much fervor that he breaks the glass separating them. Cherry, however, is ready for him and shoots him dead. As Christina sits crying on a chair, Cherry tells her that he's ready to embrace the barbarism if her backward society needs it. He kicks the chair and tells her that he is the alpha dog. That convinces Christina and tells Cherry that she'll give power to whoever Cherry wants her to. She kisses his shoe as a symbol of her allegiance. Meanwhile, Thea goes into labor, and they bring her back to town in a jiffy as she doesn't know what kind of baby she's going to give birth to. She makes Dale promise that he'll do the right thing. As she pushes, a female wolf cub tears out of her body. Dale holds her head and tells her he loves her, but she's long gone. Cherry finally sees some improvement in his experiments as the volunteers begin to show traits of feral men, from heightened aggression to rapid hair growth. The female doctor asks Cherry if he thinks the transformation is painful. Cherry doesn't answer the question and instead compliments her for being so open-minded. He then starts making love to her while repeatedly telling her to shut up. Meanwhile, right behind them, one of the convicts kills a doctor. Back at Thea's place, Dale and Nick kill everybody to honor Thea's last wishes, and after setting the newly born cub by her mother, they set the entire house on fire. Nearby, Shu asks around for Dale when he suddenly shows up in front of him, having smelled his scent from afar. Nick, also on the run, joins them, and Shu tells Dale about Cherry as they drive back to Green Gorge. Dale tells Shu that they'll get back to the kidnapped facility, but Shu isn't sure of it, as there are over 100 soldiers guarding it. Dale is ready to kill every single one of them if he has to, because if he doesn't save them, his own sacrifices will be for nothing. The showdown. Major General Richard W. Arthur is a highly disciplined man. He wakes up every day at 4:30, shaves, clips his fingernails, and eats breakfast. While clearing up their dishes, his wife May accidentally drops a coffee cup and breaks it. Richard turns an angry eye towards her, and she trembles, but he quickly soothes her, telling her that it's okay. He takes 2 pills to control his anger, kisses his wife on the forehead, and leaves for his work as the National Security Advisor. One of his meetings today is with Bob Haver of the CIA, but Bob is missing, and in his place, he meets Frida Lund instead, Chief Leadership Analyst for the Directorate of Intelligence. Richard isn't sure he wants to work with Frida, but she assures him that she's more than capable. Within a few days, Frida earns Richard's trust. Bob's still missing, along with his entire family, so Frida's stuck with Richard for a while. Frida hands him a hotel card, inviting him for a night together, and Richard agrees. He's initially racked with guilt for cheating on his wife, but Frida surprises him by telling him everything she knows about him. She knows about his anger issues, the time he broke his wife's jaw, his nails that grow at a remarkable speed, basically everything. She offers to take him to meet Bob, and Richard agrees. In a shed far from the city, Richard sees Bob chained up in front of him. He sees the bloody bodies of his wife and kids. Rita claims Bob did it happily after she made love with him and insisted he be tied up. Richard angrily attacks Frida, but Bob tells him that he was the one who lost control and killed his family. Richard still doesn't believe it and thinks Bob has been brainwashed. As Richard frees him, Rita tells Richard that his parents were feral, but raised him normal and out of the fold. She-wolves would normally only give their power to their children, but since their survival was at stake, Rita had decided to spread the power. Rita demands one of them pleasure her. Richard thinks she needs to be institutionalized, but Bob is thirsting for her. Richard tries to stop him, but Bob is determined and attacks him. The two fight, and Richard has to kill him. Rita welcomes him to their society, and Vigo invites the two for dinner. The next day, Richard calls an emergency meeting with the President, the Secretaries of State, Defense, and Homeland Security, and a senator from the Security Council to discuss a national threat he just discovered. Cherry reports all his findings to the general, expressing concern over the fact that they're becoming more aggressive, and tells them that if there is a scientific solution to the problem, they'll find it there. The general decides to send them 800 men in response. In Green Gorge, the standoff between the military and the residents holed up in the school gets to day 9. Gordon receives a call from Shu, who tells him that there was a war among the feral people, and if they use Dale as a bridge between them, they could ratchet it down. Gordon has no good news to give Shu. He tells him that thanks to Cherry feeding the National Security Advisor propaganda, the president is about to give a speech branding those people as cultists and terrorists. Shu, Dale, and Nick head to Cherry's lab. Shu tells them that there's 6 hours left before the president's speech and around 100 armed soldiers waiting for them. Nick and Dale break in and find that most of the rooms are empty or covered with blood and severed body parts. Dale finds a military man shooting at others, and they take him down. They demand to know what happened, and he spills the beans. All 800 men the general had sent were received by the she-wolves who copulated with them. As they began to get sick, they were taken to the quarantine area, and no one came back from there. The women had egged on the remaining guys to fight each other. Nick realizes it's not their fault, as they were all crazy with the change. A group of military men, still sane and on their feet, order Nick and Dale to drop their weapons and get down on the ground. By the time Shu gets there, Nick and Dale had turned the floor red with their blood. The three then walk into Cherry's chamber where he's holding the dead female doctor's hand and apologizing. Shu asks him where Christina is, and Cherry tells him that he loves her with a dazed expression. Dale recognizes that look and immediately figures out that she's in his head. Cherry says that he'll gut her the moment he sees her, and then will marry her. They find Christina in the quarantine, and Nick tells her that it's time to go home. Christina tells them it's too late as Max is already dead, and her sons were fed the blood. She had killed her daughter as she didn't want the soldiers to get to her. Vigo had given her the perfect revenge plan: to manipulate the doctor into making wolves and to set them all free. Christina tells them that she just set over 700 wolves free and then shoots herself. Shu tries to alert someone to send the army, but the wolves have knocked out the towers. Meanwhile, Adolf gets a note from the fathers and asks Sig to retrieve the blood that they have stored in the vault and gather the men in the gymnasium to end things once and for all. As Dale climbs down the mountain, he sees entire cities massacred. In Green Gorge, Gordon grows concerned as it's suspiciously quiet inside the school. In the gymnasium, Adolf addresses the people. He tells them that their way of life is over and that there are a lot of things to blame: the army, Rickard, progress, and perhaps inevitability itself. Adolf reminds them that they are Vikings, and they were first on the land before anyone else, but now trespassers are infringing on their freedom. So Adolf tells them it's time to show them who is master and who is slave. On cue, the women walk in holding trays of juice glasses. Fenrir, or the Great Wolf's blood, was mixed into random glasses, and whoever was selected would make sure their enemies died while the others would stay on as horn blowers. Sig is disappointed he doesn't get a glass, but Adolf tells him that he needs Sig by his side as he trusts him completely. Soon, people begin to change into wolves. Meanwhile, Cherry's wolves attack any and all humans that dare to stand in their way. Dale kills one of the wolves when it attacks some kids, and as he's taking a breather, he gets a call from Gordon informing him about how things are getting worse. Dale offers to talk to Vigo, but in exchange, he wants Gordon to promise him that the feral people will not be locked up and experimented on. Gordon tells him he'll do what he can. The army goes on a rampage, killing as many wolves as they can. Dale calls Gordon once again to tell him that there are more wolves, but the president's on the line with Gordon, and his secretary, Miss Olson, receives Dale's call instead. She hears the warning and tosses the phone into the trash can. The army, getting desperate and worried as to what's going on inside the school, tells them that if they don't talk to them within the next 5 minutes, a small force will be sent within. They assure them that it's not an attack and that they won't fire first. Within seconds, the wolves from inside the school break out and attack the army men. Dale watches the destruction from a mountainside, and the girl he just rescued asks him whether the monsters are eating everybody. Dale tries to console her by telling her that the army is trying to stop them, but it's clear to the girl that they aren't doing a very good job. She hugs Dale as he watches on. What they're watching is not the ending, but a very gory beginning of something much worse. And to know how Dale is going to deal with that, well, we're just going to have to wait for the sequel. Never did it once enter our imaginations that the condition of lycanthropy could be spread like an STD. One of the most original and innovative werewolf stories we've ever read, Ferals is definitely worth the read if you're into horror and don't mind a lot of violence and gore. The plot does all the heavy lifting, and the art could be better, as we felt that many characters changed faces or looked alike at times. The rest of the story was meant to unfurl in Ferals Unleashed, but that, unfortunately, never saw the light of day. So sadly, the story of Ferals remains unfinished to this day. That said, we'd love to know what you thought of it, yay or nay. Team Dale or Team Rickard? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons because that really helps us out a lot. We'll be back soon with another video for you, but until then, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and we'll see ya in the next one.